Ever seen the previews for a movie and really wanted to see it until you saw what the rating was? What do you think those ratings mean, and what makes the difference between PG, PG-13, or even R? Technically, the MPAA, which stands for the Motion Picture Association of America, is what has all the power and determines what the ratings are for each movie and why it gets the ratings it does. It hasn't always been this way. There have been different rating systems that have eventually evolved into what we know today, and there have even been a few exceptions to what the ratings have been, regardless of what the MPAA has determined. The MPAA has 5 different letters or just ideas for ratings. They're G, PG, PG-13, R, and NC-17. G stands for general audiences, which basically means that all ages are admitted, and there's nothing that in the theme, the language, nudity, sex, violence, anything like that, that parents of young children would have any problem with, they wouldn't be offended by. Once you get to PG, it's parental guidance suggested, and some material may not be suitable for children. It depends on what it is, but for the most part, it's just there may be some profanity, there might be brief nudity, but there's never any drug use. Once there's drug use added, that's when it becomes PG-13, which stands for parents strongly caution, and some material may be inappropriate for children under the age of 13. Immediate things that require this rating include drug use, more than brief nudity, and harsher words. It isn't until the harsher words are used more often or there's a lot more adult content that the R, which stands for restricted, rating is needed. This is for people over the age of 17. If you're under that age, you're allowed to be admitted with a parent or adult supervisor or guardian. There's a lot more in these ones, but it's still limited, so that children are still allowed, just not at all recommended to see. It's more for teenagers and adults. Then we hit the NC-17, where no one under the age of 17 is admitted under any circumstances. These are not necessarily obscene or pornographic, but they get as close as they can, if you want to say it that way, and it just basically means that they're strictly for adults only. This can be based on violence, behavior, drug abuse, anything like that. In the past, according to Wikipedia, they had the Hays Code, which originally started in about 1930, and this was just kind of a generalized, just keeping like an organization that kept track of movies and what was allowed in them. It wasn't until 1968 that they actually started a rating system, which consisted of G, like it is now, M, which stands for mature audiences, R for restricted again, but instead it's under 16 needs a parent, and X, which means adult only, which is 18 and above. Then in 1970, M changed to GP, which just meant that parental guidance suggested, same as PG nowadays, and R changed its age up to 17 so that they would have an even number, because X also moved down to 17. So it was the same number, so it's one or the other, either side of it. In 1972, GP changed to PG. In 84, they added PG-13. And then in 1990, they changed X to NC-17. So now we have all 5 of ours that we have today. Sometimes the rating board will decide to change the rating of a movie or make it different from what they would normally choose for it, depending on certain circumstances. But that is only allowed to do that if 2/3 of the rating board decides this way and takes a special vote for it. And it's only if the rating is appropriate due to context. An example of this is a movie that's coming out this month called Bully. And the movie, I just read an article that was released 2 days ago on April 6th, talking about a long, drawn-out ordeal with this whole movie where there was a lot of profanity in it, and the MPAA would only give it an R rating because of how much was in it, but due to some editing and a whole process of trying to make it just unrated instead, but that limited what groups would be allowed to see it, They eventually edited it and brought it back down to PG-13. The reason they wanted it that way was because it would limit what audiences would be there, and the teenage audiences would have the biggest impact, and that's what they wanted in their audience. This actually, as the article says, this marks the first time the MPAA has allowed a movie with more than 2 uses of the F word to escape an R rating. And this is a really big deal since it's the first time. And who knows, it might happen again, but it does happen. Another example is series ratings. A lot of times series movies, such as Lord of the Rings, have been said that they change the rating of one of the final movies so that they can keep the same audience for the whole thing. The final movie, Return of the King, could have been rated R, but they kept it at PG-13 because all the others had already been PG-13, so they can keep the same audience, and it would have been rated R based on violence. So as you can see, whether we like the ratings or not, they're there for a reason. For the most part, it's to monitor what our youth in America are seeing and making sure it's appropriate, and that it's not just appropriate to the general population, but to the parents of these children.